Now, HaRav Wasserman alav Shalom writes in his Ikvedat Meshicha, in his sefer that we actually have on our website, be'ezrathashem.org. For anyone that wants to download it for free, you subscribe to our website, it automatically gets emailed to you. If you already subscribed, you go to the ebook sections, and it's in English. It was translated, it was originally written in Yiddish, then it was translated to Hebrew and English. And we have the English version on our website. And he writes it, and this is at the time of the Holocaust. HaRav Wasserman alav Shalom was the Talmid Muvak of the Chafetz Chaim, was told what's going to happen from the Chafetz Chaim in the Holocaust before it happened, nearly 10 years before the Holocaust happened, and wrote in his Sefer that the generation at the time that is seeing so much trouble, so much anti-Semitism, would have a much better opportunity, would have a much better understanding of how to deal with things if the rabbis spoke up. In fact, he said even if the Gdolim would speak up. But it seems like the Gdolim of the generation closed themselves. Even though they didn't close themselves, they spoke. But he says maybe they're not speaking loud enough. They're speaking in their books, maybe not in their lectures, or maybe people just choose not to hear them because they're not speaking loud enough and making enough of a noise. And he says the problem with this is not that the people don't hear the truth, but rather this gives room for the Nevi'eh Sheker of the generation to speak out, for the false prophets of the generations to speak out, the Friedmans and the Goldbergs and the Dror Kasutos of the world and the Sachs of the world and the Mervises of the world and all of the other Reshaim on the list. They have an opportunity to speak. They're Sheker, and they're very good at it. They're the best, actually. He says those shakranim, those liars, they speak telling everybody, no, don't worry, you're a tzaddik, Hashem loves you no matter what, even if you drive on Shabbat, even if you're married to a goya, even if you're married to a goy, even if you eat taref, Hashem loves you, Hashem understands you, He understands what you can do, don't worry, you're going to be in Olam Haba, the rabbi is going to save you, this one's going to save you, you're okay the way you are. HaRav Wasserman alav Shalom says these are the Nevi'eh Sheker. And what do you think? Nevi'eh Sheker were only at the times of the Nevi'im, of the prophets? Nevi'eh Sheker are in every generation. He says when we do not speak out loud enough, it gives power to the false prophets, because they are going to speak loud enough. And when they speak, they'll get 1 million views, not 500 or 5,000 views, or even 50,000 views. They'll get 1 million views for their false prophecy. And those false prophets come in the form of rabbis, they come in the form of Messianic Jews, which are really Christians in disguise. They come in the form of full-blown Christians and Catholics. They come in the form of Islam. They come in the form of Buddha. They come in the form of atheism. They come in the form of all types of heresy. And for anyone who is paying attention, you will see that in the last several weeks, especially these last maybe even 2 months, the amount of false prophecy, the amount of Nevi'eh Sheker that have taken the stage and have disseminated their venom to the people has increased dramatically. So much more garbage is being disseminated to the people. Now, part of that is the fault of the rabbis, that are not speaking out enough. Many rabbis are telling people, oh, stay inside, don't get sick. Okay, stay inside, don't get sick physically. What about spiritually? Okay, so he's inside watching YouTube all day, a false prophet, so now he's becoming a kofel. That's healthy. It was better off he was a dead tzaddik. We spoke about being inside. Okay, we're inside. What are we going to do now that we're inside? Some of these rabbis, they speak, they're so zealous about being inside. Some guy that lives in China made a whole thing. It went viral all over the internet. Every single joke passed this text message, this YouTube video. I don't know how many millions of views watched this guy. And he was zealous about, oh, I'm telling you, you have to stay inside. It's not a joke, this coronavirus. How come you didn't scream like that about Chilul Shabbat? You have to stay inside. It's pikuach nefesh. What? Chilul Shabbat is not pikuach nefesh? Married to a goya is not pikuach nefesh? Eating tarif is not pikuach nefesh? Cash advance and other flawed businesses full of corruption is not pikuach nefesh? How come you weren't so zealous about that, Mr. Rabbi? And all of his friends do the same thing. Stay inside to protect. No minyan, no tefillah, no. Okay, fine, you're right. But how come you're not as zealous about the pikuach nefesh of the neshama that stays forever? How come? This Rabotai Karim gives a stage to who? The Nevi'eh Sheker. Because the Nevi'eh Sheker never stop working. In fact, they work overtime. They keep giving out their false prophecy. Friedman and company is becoming more of a menace on a daily basis. Now his God has three pieces, like the Christians and the Catholics. He has a whole lecture about how God has three pieces.
Because we say, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu. Two names for God. Hashem is God, Elokeinu is the God of creation. So it sounds like there's God who doesn't get involved in creation. And then there's Elokeinu, Elokim, is the God of creation. So of course it's the same God, but this God is divided. There's a part of him engages in creation, and there's a part of him that does not. I don't even know where he belongs to. Can't say he's Chabad. Chabad doesn't believe in three gods. Some of them have lost their mind and maybe have idolized the Rebbe, Allah v'shalom, but they don't believe in three gods. How come Chabad doesn't speak against them? Supposedly he's part of them. How come not a single person from Chabad is speaking against this Kufer Gamur? What about the other Reshaim that keep spewing their venom against everyone? No, you're being mean, it's not nice, you're full of hatred. What full of hatred? Full of hatred of the Reshaim? Yeah, David HaMelech was also full of hatred for the Reshaim. It's our obligation to be full of hatred against the Reshaim. If you don't hate the Reshaim, there's no chance that you're going to be a tzaddik. Rabbeinu Yonah in Sha'arei Teshuva says, if you want to be a tzaddik, you have to hate Reshaim. Obligation. Mitzvah from the Torah, hate Reshaim. We're not talking about Reshaim that they don't even know they're Rasha. Talk about somebody that knows. How come they're not speaking against them? How come they're giving these people a stage? How come already an article came out 7-8 years ago about Sachs being a Kufer Gamur, writing that Judaism doesn't have the whole truth, or that Adam v'Chava was a parable, or the Yetziat Mitzrayim was a parable?
But what about Adam and Eve? I mean, what do you think about that? Is that symbolic or literally?
Well, Adam and Eve is clearly a parable because there was no first human, and there may have been a mitochondrial Eve, but I mean that was somewhere else and in another country, and besides the wench is dead. Exactly. Yeah. So no, I mean Adam and Eve are really, I mean if you trace it back 6,000 years ago, obviously the Bible is telling us the story about the first dawn of civilization. I mean, there was art 25,000 years before
So Adam and
that.
Eve is symbolic,
yeah.
But the parting of the Red Sea, I mean, how do you decide which bits are symbolic?
Very simple. The rabbis in the 10th century laid down the following principle. If a biblical narrative is incompatible with established scientific fact, It is not to be read literally.
How come he still gets a stage by Orthodox Union and other big Jewish organizations? How come Ephraim Goldberg is getting the stage along with him, two Reshaim together? Wanted to invite a Catholic missionary to a synagogue with 1,000 families. How come he's still getting the stage? Dror Kasuta tells people to go smoke marijuana before they learn Torah if it gives them nice chizuk.
I'm holding grass, weed, marijuana as medicine, as drug that is a real medicine, and you need to know how to use it and when to use it. And if your senses are strong and pure and powerful, so you can know it about yourself, you can have a self-awareness to know if it's building you or destroying you, if you're using it for a good cause, or if your evil inclination is using you to kick you down to sadness and to many lackings that it can bring. Person now, in a certain stage of his life, is using a certain drug in a good way that is building him, that is supplying something good for him in his life, still, that's my thought, I think that it is only waking him up.
How come he's still getting the stage? How come nobody's speaking against it? How come I have to speak against it every time? People think like I like this, I hate this more than anything else in the world. But this is Torah, Rabotai. Rule number 1, stay away from sin. Then do mitzvot. Why? Because if your mitzvot are full of averot, you're still going to go to Gehenom anyway. The point is, Rabotai, is we have to know Jewish ideology doesn't play games. It's not joke. It's not something here, something there. It's not shakshuka. Every time it tastes different. For anyone who doesn't know, shakshuka is a Middle Eastern dish with some eggs. Forget it. Very tasty. Anyway, Rabotai, it's very important that we know that speaking against the wicked is an obligation, because when we don't, we simply are allowing them to continue growing without anyone speaking against them, and that is one of the reasons why HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided to destroy the Bet HaMikdash when he did. On Mondays and Thursdays you pray differently than you do the rest of the week. You add some parts to your prayer and your siddur. And one part of it, you see, it's a Gemara. It starts with Abaye. Abaye says, Anshe Emunah Avadu. Abaye says, men of truth are lost. The Gemara in Masechet Hagigah says, what does it mean? What is Abaye talking about, men of truth are lost? It says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu looked at the world at the time of the Bet HaMikdash. He says there's no men of truth, no men that will fight for the truth anymore. That means they're not going to do tshuva the ordinary way. I must destroy the Bet HaMikdash to get them to do tshuva. If they don't learn from the rabbis, I have to teach them, Hashem says. If we don't speak against Reshaim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to make things worse.